Hey friends, don't forget to check out M3 Virtual Accounting if you are looking for somebody to handle your finances. Whether it's a virtual business or your personal finances, Molly Morris is really great at figuring out what she can do for you and talking through a plan and a price point that will work for you. So go to M3 Virtual Accounting and request a free consultation. She'll just chat with you for probably like 15 minutes. It's not going to take long. It doesn't cost you anything. And you can just find out if you're a good fit. M3virtualaccounting.com. Let her know Natasha sent you.
This is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Ted Lasso, Season 3, Episode 3, 451. In this episode, it's time for Zava to join the team and carry them entirely on his shoulders and talk to everybody about how we're a team, but also he has them inside a backpack on his shoulders so none of their faces can be seen, and he is literally the only one the press ever talks to. Welcome to Unspoiled. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn. I think my screen just froze, but I'm here.
It's okay. Just continue as if everything is going perfectly.
Beautiful.
Yay.
I live my regular life. That's actually, those are the words I say every morning when I wake up.
Okay. So, really quick off the top, I am going to have to stick with Crowdcast over YouTube because YouTube has decided it's going to be real trigger happy about suspending my account on false claims of copyright infringement. And due to that, Crowdcast is going to be instituting and at the start of next year a max of 40 hours of recording, which I go over. And I am going to have to cut one of my lives. So we're going to be able to finish Ted Lasso. And we may be able to do some of Hunger Games, maybe the first book. I don't even know. I don't want to even think that far ahead. But after that, we're not going to be able to do our lives anymore on Fridays. It's going to be solely Unsobers that we can do lives for. And I'm going to keep the lives going on for patrons only content with Miles. So I just wanted to let you all know about what's going on. Crowdcast is upping their fees from $45 a month to $195 a month. I literally cannot find another service that does everything that they do. I have looked. Everybody has shared things with me. I promise I have seen them. I understand folks want to help, but I promise I have checked into everything. And the only other option was YouTube. And they have proven to be very unreliable and low-key dangerous, potentially, for my content. So there's a lot happening and a lot of changes and a lot of adjustments that I'm going to have to make, as well as raising my prices on Spoil Me episodes from $50 to $60. So just sorry about that, everybody. I don't like it any more than you do. I do not want to be paying $200 when I had been paying like $50. I hate that. But they truly do have a product that I can't find anywhere else, and they seem to have figured that out. So like low-key, they're not charging anything outrageous objectively for what they're doing, but it's just a massive jump from what I had been paying, and it sucks. I had unlimited hours of recording time for $45. I should have known that wasn't going to last, you know? So anyway, here we are. And sorry to drop all of that info in the beginning, but a lot of folks do not listen to the announcements at the end, and I don't want anybody to miss anything.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what's going on there. And then now let us talk about this show, which is starting off with a scene that is a bit of like, I think it was supposed to be more of a shock than it was for me, because I low-key forgot that this character's whole thing was pretending to be a womanizer. So I did not remember that he had a persona going on and that we were maybe not supposed to know that he was gay. So when this got dropped, I was like, oh, okay. And then I started to be like, wait, does everybody else know? And of course I slowly started to realize, oh, okay, no, has not told folks.
Right.
But I felt like I didn't fully appreciate this moment because maybe if I like just watched the previous season, I would have like clocked exactly what was going on here, but I did not. So forgive me that this didn't like quite hit.
So wait, let me get clarification on what you're saying here. So you're saying you were not surprised at the reveal, or?
I'm saying that it wasn't a reveal for me because I didn't recall what his like public facing persona was.
Right. Okay. So
when they show a boy like waiting for him and making coffee and they kiss, I was just kind of like, oh, that's cute. He's got somebody. That's nice.
Right.
And then it was like, as things went on, I was like, oh, right. Nobody knows. And then I started to realize.
Yeah. So this is, so Colin, right. We've known Colin since season 1. Colin is the one who had the joke in quotes, right? When Keely announces to the team she's got this new dating app called Banter. And he says, oh, like Grindr.
Oh.
Right. So
I didn't remember that. Okay.
So and then his whole I'm a strong, capable man. So I feel like this wasn't, for me, it wasn't like a shocking twist. It was like a confirmation. Like,
sure.
Oh, we planted a seed. You've been wondering what his deal is, not that we're like fixated on it, but just like, there's been a couple of little seeds that were dropped throughout seasons 1 and 2. And this is finally like the show saying like, this is, what you all have been thinking or what we've been subtly trying to hint at or whatever. So I don't think there were some people in the wild, a few people who thought that it was out of the blue or whatever. But I was really happy to like, oh, okay, they're going to do it. They're not just going to dance around. They're going to give us a fucking a queer like professional footballer. Like, all right, I'm here for it.
The thing that I'm really concerned about, obviously, is the way the episode ends. I really want Trent Crimm independent to not just out somebody.
How do you think that's going to go?
Than that.
What do you so you think he's better than that?
I think so.
Because he is showing
I'm getting
himself
real cynical
to be,
here, though. Here's the thing. I think he's better than that. I also think the current climate would be vicious to somebody outing someone else in that way. So even if he isn't better than that, I wonder if he has like the PR savvy to know I can't do that because I am going to be
it'll blow back on
pilloried
me
for it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it might not be.
Do you remember that thing with Daily Beast outing that? I think it was a journalist.
I don't.
Who was like, yeah, they were in a country where it was actually kind of dangerous, low-key, if I remember correctly. I can't remember if it was like the World Cup or what, but somebody just straight up outed a person who was in the closet, and it was like a really gross.
I don't remember that.
Like the article was written in a kind of gleeful way, like they were like catching them out in this scandalous manner, and the public absolutely lost their shit, and they wound up like editing the article heavily at first so they could pretend that we didn't say his fucking name outright, and then they started to like I think they pulled the article entirely at the end.
No, I don't have any remembrance of any of this. Wow.
Yeah, it was really ugly. And then there was this is what the other thing that I sort of am thinking of is that episode of Survivor, which I've never watched Survivor. We've had a couple of people ask us to cover it.
Really?
No,
I never watched. I don't know any. I mean, I remember when it first hit and it was like everywhere. I know like a couple of touchstones from the very first couple of seasons, but that's pretty much it.
There was a trans contestant, I guess they're called. I was going to say character, but they're like real people, so it's a contestant. And this person like came out to someone in a private conversation on Survivor, and then when it came time to like do the voting and make your argument about who should stay and who should go, the person that he had confided in was like, how come you haven't told everyone you're trans?
This is vaguely familiar.
And everybody was like, whoa, dude, how the fuck dare you? And they wound up just kicking him off. There wasn't even a vote. It was just like the leader going, I think we can all agree. And everybody being like, yeah, bye. Thankfully, we've come a bit of a ways, I think, in understanding like how dangerous and insensitive that is. And I'm hoping at the very least, if he isn't like morally at the level of knowing to not do that, that he would understand it would sink him potentially publicly.
Okay.
At the same time, maybe it would sink him in his reps, but maybe he would still sell a lot of books. And sometimes people are willing to like, just,
and you have to remember he is independent now. You know, he's freelancing. He's not employed by anybody that he has to appease. He's trying to write a book and then sell a book. So the motivation to be scandalous and salacious is definitely there. Chris Goodnight in the chat is saying that a British magazine basically forced Rebel Wilson to out herself. So I guess we're still doing this.
Cool.
Gross. Also, Colin's his little friend his face is so familiar, and I cannot place him. And I meant to do a Google search to see what else he popped in, but his face is so familiar. He's such a cutie pie. But I forgot.
He does not ring a bell for me, but he is super adorable. Yeah. Their whole vibe is so sweet.
It's so cute.
And I have a lot of sympathy for having to pretend that you're not in a relationship. Like how potentially demeaning that could feel, that you're somebody's like secret. Also, though, it could be really hot.
Well,
you know, this is like why people have affairs and stuff.
I was just
the
about
fucking
to say,
sneaking around.
Yeah, but there's a difference between hiding who you are and hiding what you're doing. So when you're having an affair, you're not hiding who you are as a person. You're hiding that you're fucking. But this is an entirely different sort of level. So before we move on to like the episode recap, let me ask, we talked about what you think about Trent Krim and whether or not he'll out Colin or not. What do you think the reaction would be if he's outed from the players themselves?
They'd be so pissed
that he was outed.
I think they would be pissed on his behalf that he got outed. I'm wondering, I have a feeling like if the audience has picked up some clues, I feel like his players that he's friends with maybe know, like, I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if some people were like, yeah, man, you know, we like played along and stuff, but come on.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know.
All right.
It really depends how observant we're going to make our guys, and they're all different. So some of them might have figured it out and just kept that shit to themselves, you know? Is there anybody openly gay on the team yet?
Not that we've been made aware of, no. There are
because I was thinking, like, if there were, they may have stumbled across him on Grindr themselves and been like, all right, well, I'm just not going to say anything, but
that's really funny. That's been happening in, like, real life to me lately.
To you? You've been spotted on Grindr?
Well, I know someone who is openly out. And they go out, you know, and socialize at the area establishments and run into other people that we know. And then it'll be like, you know who I saw last night at the bar?
Oh,
so and so and so. And I'm just like, what?
It's all a community.
But we don't, like, you know, there's no like spreading of the information or like putting people's business out there or anything like that. But
that's
all right.
My concern is that there's going to be one outlier who turns out to be like really homophobic. I really hope not. I mean, here's the thing. If we're going to be making this show that's like wholesome, and that's asterisk, because obviously people call this show wholesome, but it's like not exclusively, and that's kind of the point. Do we want to watch a player cope with a homophobic teammate. Yeah, that's reality. But do
is
we
that
want
what
to
we're
do
here
that?
for? Is that what we're
Yeah.
here for with this show? That's a very excellent point.
It's, it's a real question, because like there are arguments to be made about like the realism of things all the time, but members of the communities in question are like, yeah, I could have done without the realism though. I'm not watching this to see my struggle yet again on television. I would like to just see a person like have support. I will say this with an asterisk as well, because I didn't finish watching Stranger Things, but there's that older brother character that comes out not
Billy.
comes out like as gay, but yeah, and he's like racist against the young kid. And
Lucas.
I don't remember if like anything wound up coming of that, because I didn't watch far enough, and I don't know that it did or not. But I think I remember you being like, why do we have to have this on here on this show? Can we just not do this in this show? And I feel like this is about including like sexual assault in certain storylines where I'm like, yeah, sexual assault really happens. That's not what I want from y'all, these writers. Don't. There's subject matter that I'm like, it's just so it can be a little bit like, what's the wording that I want here? I want to say like after school special kind of thing, where it's like, oh, we're teaching a lesson, I just don't know if I want the like sole queer relationship that we have seen on the show that I recall being like a problem and an issue,
right?
Beyond just, I have to tell my friends,
Right. There's something to be said for marginalized identities existing in a property and then being used as jumping off points to teach the larger community lessons.
Yeah.
Where we just want to tune in for the escapism that everybody else is tuning in for. And then all of a sudden there you are. So everybody else can learn a little something. And meanwhile, you're just like, I just wanted to watch a show though.
Yeah.
But it's a fine line, because then, also representation is really important. And sometimes you just want to tackle the issues. But I think you're making a really good observation about understanding the property that you're watching, what your expectation is when you tune into said property, right? Like you get into a mental space when you pick a show to watch, you get an idea of like what it is I'm going to be looking to get from this show, this book, this movie. And sometimes you're just not in the mood for that to be a teachable moment for everybody.
And I actually tweeted about this. Now that I think about it, it's like the exact topic. A few days ago, I did a longer thread because there is a Latina character in that Ninth House series that I love so much, but her identity as a Latina is not centered, and it's not a big part of her personality or her experience, which is very much like mine. I have a father who's Colombian, but I don't speak the language, and I wasn't immersed in the culture in a way that I feel like a very, very strong, I have a connection, but it's not a part of my life every day. And there were people arguing about how her Latina identity is erased, that it's like, why even make her Latina if you're not going to quote do anything with that?
Right.
And on Twitter, I was like, I really think people have trouble managing their expectations, especially regarding representation, because some people expect that if a character is representing a community, they're like a mascot and have to display all of these like stereotypical traits, in a way. And it's like a weird thing where it's like, you don't want somebody to be a stereotype, but also if you don't show them
don't give
speaking
markers,
Spanish and making arepas with their abuela, then you're just not making her Latina enough. Like, and I was reading it feeling really gratified to have a character who is Latina that it's just not really a thing. She doesn't even really speak any Spanish. She has a little, but like very little. And I felt kind of seen. I was like, oh, I appreciate this. And then to see the book getting kind of like bashed by people from the Latina community from that perspective. And I was just like, yeah, we exist, guys. Like, I don't know why y'all think that whatever it is you live is the only way to depict this, but that's not the only experience out there.
Right.
So it's just a kind of a fraught topic, especially because so many communities are not represented. So everybody puts all their fucking expectations whenever something becomes popular and there's a person that they feel is like their one chance to have some shine in the pop culture universe. Now, all of a sudden, the pressure is on and it's impossible for one character or one property to like
That's
do what everybody wants them to do.
More and more and more and more, you know, we need more and more and more of these stories centering these characters that we didn't get to see before. And we need more and more because not any one property is able to capture everything that goes with a particular identity. Like, it doesn't matter how good you are, how hard you try. It's just an impossible task. So, and this is why you don't see these conversations with or I was going to say non-POCs, but I guess I could just say white people.
Yeah,
because there is the wealth and the breadth of properties that exist and the options that you can, there's so many that if one book doesn't describe everything to a T, nobody is felt like they come up short because there's 8 million other things to pick from, right? Exactly. So that's what we have to get to, but we're not anywhere close to there yet. And I'll admit that sometimes I get in my feelings if I'm watching something and it's a Black woman character and she's not hitting the markers that I think come with being a Black woman. And then I have to even remind myself that I am one of a myriad of experiences, you know? I mean, so, but all right, let's
we really got
focus.
Into it head first this time, didn't we?
So the episode opens with Colin and his friend, whose name I can't remember, and I was looking at.
I don't remember.
He introduces him when he comes to the restaurant later too, and I just can't.
I keep
remember
wanting to say Taylor, and I don't know where the fuck I got that from.
But let me see if my my subtitles aren't telling me.
It's on the
name.
Text message later, so we'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, and then he shows up and he introduces him to everybody. So we don't have to do beat by beat, I don't think, of like everything that happens in the episode, but I want to talk because this whole episode is about Zava overall, right? That's what's happening here. And there is a big like showing of him joining the team in a big fan event that's supposed to happen. And he shows
this
up
is so you guys,
what did you think of him as you got to meet Zava now in this episode? We had met him briefly last week, right? You had feelings about what kind of person he was going to be, what kind of character he was going to be to watch. What did you think of him?
I don't even remember what I said I thought he was going to be like. I genuinely have no memory. God, my brain. What a sieve.
You thought he was going to be a lot like Jamie, but like 10 times worse than Jamie was in season 1.
All right, well, I guess that's true. The thing about him being worse is that he's like insufferable in a very different way. A really different way. You know what this is giving is Owen Wilson's character on Zoolander.
Oh, I never
Zoolander, Sean.
I've never seen it, you guys.
It's really hitting that for me. I won't even like try and describe, but it's a very like I'm so elevated kind of character who is also deeply vain, and there is some truth to what they're selling. Like they can back it up. So there's to a point you're just kind of like, well, what am I even gonna say? Zava is behaving as if he is a messiah, and there's a lot of people here who are fully in agreement with his behavior and do not see anything wrong with it at all. That's my favorite, is how there's only one person resenting it. It's only Jamie. And
Mhm.
literally the rest of the whole team is completely on board with treating him as if he is an otherworldly being from on high, lowered down to human level temporarily to play football.
And to be fair, he is, like you said, he can back it up. I mean, they are like on a crazy win streak. They are moving up the ranks after being forecasted
The
to
goals
finish
he's
dead last.
making,
Bananas, right?
I mean, I have to assume some of these are like stage, computer generated, whatever. But this man is practically like doing backflips and curling the ball up his sternum into the fucking goal. Like, it's just the level of, he can't even let Jamie make that goal.
That one when he goes in and puts it in. It was going to be
so pissed.
It was going to be Jamie's first goal of the season, and he fucking goes in and sneaks it from him.
I loved it. I really did. Like, I know that Jamie has grown. I understand that he even is just like, it's not ironic, it's hypocritical, which is such a fucking stellar moment.
Wasn't that phenomenal? I love that. So, and Beard being like, when Ted is like, was he right? And Beard just, yes. Like, he's questioning everything that makes him Beard, right? His whole views of the universe, everything is upended from this interaction that he has. And then we have a sort of echo of that moment later when Jamie is talking to Roy at the restaurant, and Roy says prima donna.
Did you just say prima donna? It's prima donna. Who the fuck says prima donna? Oh my God, that was really
Roy
good.
is like, well, before Madonna, vocalists didn't have to work so hard. Jamie is like, what the fuck about Tina Turner? Stevie, I mean, like this fucking...
Roy did not know what he was saying and just was like, let me just pretend I knew exactly and meant it.
It was such a beautiful... I love this Jamie arc so far of these first seasons of this. So I want to talk a little bit about Jamie's resentment of Zava and ask you, what do you think that is rooted in? Do you think it's just jealousy, or what else do you think is going on there?
I think there's definitely jealousy. He says straight up to Roy, I want to be better than him. Like, and that's just as simple as it can be.
Right.
I mean, that's fine. I'm not mad at anybody who is just like, I want to be as good at or better at this thing than that person.
Yeah. Especially if
fucking
you're...
same. I can be very weirdly competitive about stuff.
And he is a competitor. He's a professional competitor, and he's always been the very best. So it tracks it. That would trigger in him a desire to be better. Right?
However, this is a thing that I might be projecting a little bit, but I also feel like I know whereof I speak. When you have grown as a person in a certain direction, and then you come across someone who hasn't, and they still exhibit some of the cringy behaviors that you used to exhibit, the very specific type of deep contempt that you feel for someone who reminds you of yourself is unparalleled. Like, there is nothing like that kind of hatred, because it's rooted in this embarrassment, this self-loathing and awareness, and a fear that you could slip back into that, or maybe you already do and you don't realize it, and one day you're going to look back on this and be like, wow, I was so cringy when you thought you were doing better. Like, that for me shows in some ways like that you are growing.
Right.
If you can have that sort of fear and see, this is what I used to be like. But you don't just drop those kinds of behaviors overnight. They don't just go away. You have to train yourself if you have bad patterns. And there are times where you watch somebody who's doing the thing that you found sort of toxic, that you stop doing. And while you're embarrassed watching them do it, and you hate them because they're awful doing it, they're getting results that you miss a little.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he's getting attention that Jamie doesn't really get the same way anymore because he doesn't
Right.
cultivate it purposely, and that's a
Right.
good thing.
Right.
But I'm sure he misses it. This is like me watching women who have eating disorders and lose weight and look great. I don't want to have an eating disorder anymore. I would like to not engage in toxic behavior about weight and fat phobia. But do I look at these women who drop a bunch of weight and look great and get a ton of attention and can buy clothes in regular stores and feel deep envy? Oh my God.
Mm.
Choking envy. I mean, suffocating. It's just not that simple. You can't just be like, oh, now I know that thing is bad that I used to do. I
Right.
no longer do it. And I can display a compassion and grace to everyone else who also used to do the thing or still. God, I wish I was like that.
Right.
And sometimes I can be, but when it's in your home like this, it's
Mm-hmm.
at his work where he was
Yeah.
the star for so long. It's right in his yard.
Yeah, and he's worked so hard to. There's this moment towards the end of the montage when they're just like, killing every team, and Zava's
Mm-hmm.
scoring these crazy goals. He takes his shirt off and, like, stands in front of the crowd, and on the back of Zava is a tattoo of Zava standing in front of the crowd, right? And
You
Jamie
guys,
sees it.
is this a Paddington 2 reference? Because I feel like it's a Paddington 2 reference.
You guys will have to let her know because I haven't seen those movies. I think we talked about that recently. I have not seen the Paddington movies, so I don't know.
They've
But
mentioned
they
Paddington
mentioned him.
in the show, so I kind of feel like this is on purpose.
Could be.
Which one you gotta watch them? They're so dumb.
But there was the scene in the first season when Jamie is yelling at the crowd and he's just chanting me, me, me.
Mm-hmm.
And watching Jamie's face, watch this guy engage in that same behavior that Jamie has been working so hard to get past. And I love when he admits to Roy that he wants to be better because Jamie also comes and talks to the coaches about Zava, and it's just like, I don't think we need him. I think we've got something good here, and I think we can be great. And when I first watched that episode, my instinct was, oh, he's just feeling insecure, because this guy is coming. And there had been conversation with the coaches too, talking about like who's going to take it hardest, because we're going to have to get put a striker in the background. And they all agree Jamie's going to take it the hardest because of ego, right?
Right.
So my first instinct was, oh, that's ego talking. He's insecure. He's about to be outshined. But I think that it was a genuine, like, Jamie was genuinely being like, no, I've so bought into this sort of Lasso way. I am 100% into building what we're building. I really mean it. I really do think we'll be great, without him. Even though, I mean, nobody else thought so, because again, everybody forecasted them to be like last in the league.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird, like, the situation is just so, because do I think that they had a good thing? Yeah, they were a really strong team. And when you put all of your wins on one person's shoulders, that's amazing. And I can't fault them for just letting this unbelievable player be unbelievable. But anything could happen. He could get injured, God knows. And then what? And the team, I don't want to say like they don't work together well without him, because I'm not sure that's true. But there is a way that I think maybe people can start to get kind of apathetic and be like, all I have to do is pass the ball to him and then not have to worry anymore because I know he'll take care of it. And then you start to lose some of the killer instinct that they have when that person is not on the field.
Right. There's also that moment when the pundits are discussing the team, and the old coach, George, I think his name is is being, because I think the one pundit is like, is this going to make Lasso Coach of the Year? And he's like, he's not coaching. Writing Zava's name on the sheet isn't the same as coaching, you know?
He's right.
So, but also it's, you have to remember that Zava elevating the team and is literally elevating. Like Keely tells Rebecca, like, you're global now, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you have taken, this player has taken this little scrappy team that nobody cared about and made them like international news, you know, and just taking them up 3 or 4 levels where they wouldn't have been able to get to that level on their own. Just as far as like notoriety, coverage, you know, who's checking into your team, who, you know, all that stuff. I mean, they've got a world-class marquee player, like a once-in-a-generation player on their team. And the rest of the team, to be fair, Danny Rojas, can we talk about how by the end of this episode, he's literally just shadowing Zava? Like, he's literally just doing whatever Zava is doing.
It's George Costanza with Elaine's boyfriend,
Tony.
You said step off? You said that's unbelievable. I mean,
he's going to turn his hat backwards. I made him a
friendship bracelet. And what I enjoy about it, I'll say this, Zava never seems contemptuous of this. He accepts it as his due and is just like, of course I'll be your friend, bud. Yeah, I'm friends with everybody. I'm amazing. Of course I'll be friends with everybody. Why would I not when I have more than enough to give the world because I have more than anybody else has?
When he doesn't show for the press thing, you know, the big event at the beginning of the episode, and they're concerned that he's going to pull the same shit he did with I forget what other team it was. It was I don't know what Man City or whatever team he was supposed to sign with.
Yeah,
and they're panicking. And Rebecca's like to Higgins, you know, check the contract. He signed a contract, and Higgins is like, yeah, it's electronic signature. It's completely binding. And then a few beats later, okay, he signed a contract. You're welcome, I think is what it said.
Yep. He
signed a contract. You're welcome.
And what's sort of fascinating is that he is, I believe, dead sincere in all of this theater. I don't think this is an act, but also Rebecca coming in and being like, you know, you're overrated and full of shit, got to him enough that he switched to the lowest ranked team, which I'm having trouble sort of reconciling those. Is he just like, I'll show her? Is that what he's doing? Like,
I don't think it's a show her. I think she, and this is a really actually fascinating part of this bit, right? Because when we first see her confront him in the bathroom and tell him, you know, you're not as good as you think you are, it feels like, oh, well, maybe he just wants to show her up. But I think she keyed into, even someone as arrogant and self-assured as Zava is, and clearly gifted and talented, he is, I think they say when they introduced this character in the earlier episode that he's been in like 15 teams in 15 years or something, right? So he's well into his career. 15 years as a professional athlete, you are probably already peaked, you know, and maybe get ready to go down the other side. And she she managed.
I made this drink and I put like mashed nectarines in it, and I just got this big ass chunk of nectarine in my straw, and I didn't realize it. I started to pull it out. I was like, Rashana's gonna be so horrified with this like wet glob of my straw on camera.
Oh god.
Oh my god, I'm sorry. Okay. So you would think he was already peaked. Continue.
So she managed to get into a tiny sliver of self-doubt where he starts thinking to himself, shit, is that what the world's gonna think? Is the world gonna think I'm not as good as I fucking am? Because I know how fucking good I am. Oh, I need to show all these motherfuckers because they forgot how good I fucking am. And she just managed it. So I don't think it's personal against her. I do love that when they can't find him, he's sitting at her desk. And she's like, what the fuck? Get the fuck out of here.
God. This is the thing that I'm really not sure what to make of, is that a play like that, I made people wait 2 hours. I didn't show up. And then I was sitting at the owner's desk. It is the kind of thing that would feel like a fuck you coming from a different person, especially in light of the way that she got him to join the team. But that's not the energy he brings in that scene at all.
Nope, it's not. Yeah, I agree.
It's just like, I don't have time to be concerned with petty things like massive press conferences. Like, that's a you thing, and I hope you had fun with your little gathering. Good for you, but right. I am the player, and I am not interested, and so I'm not even going to bother telling you I'm not interested. Don't they say that, like, the cell phone they're tracking is in Majorca or something? It's like
nobody no one can get in touch with her.
Yeah.
And then he finally makes his way down to the locker room to meet everybody and announce his presence. Everybody is like ecstatic to see him. They have like a good talk, you know, like and then like he's like, "All right, I'm done," and he
he's walking out, and they're like, "Do you know where you're going?" "I do not." Does he slow down? Does
not
he
at
ask?
All.
No, he does not.
Not at all. So, other than Zava, we also find out a big reveal about what's going on with Ted's ex-wife, Michelle, at home.
Oh, yeah.
So, did you get what was happening as it was happening, or did you remember did you recognize that name? Did you get who that was and all that? Did you remember any of that?
No. Is there a way to have recognized that name? Has he been mentioned?
He's been mentioned. And the name has. And when Ted signs the divorce papers in I guess season 2?
I thought it was 1.
Was it 1?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Season 1, when Nate comes and slides the thing under the door and Ted yells at him at the hotel. He had gotten a text, I think. And Chris is in a chat. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but he gets a text like sort of being like, "Hey, Michelle asked me to reach out. Can you da 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 da?"
Oh, I thought that was from a lawyer. Okay,
I think it was from him, but I could be wrong. But we did know his name, and when they are in the room, like in the kitchen and the phone rings, I remember watching it and knowing who it was, so I must have gotten like some idea.
I believe I'm not even saying like you're wrong, that was a lawyer. I'm saying in the scene I thought it was a lawyer reaching out because that is the person who needs those papers back. That was the person I thought would be like interested in the situation.
Right, that's who it should have, like normally who it would be, right? I don't know why I think it was him. I have to check that. I could be wrong, but for some reason I feel like it was him. But so either way, we have the reveal now that she is with their ex-marriage counselor. Yeah. Thoughts?
This is a real tough one, man. This is something that's like not an infrequent thing too. Not only marriage counselors, but the divorce lawyer I hear is like a popular one also.
Is it?
I
didn't know that.
But it is like, as what's her face? I can't remember her name, says borderline unethical.
Sassy.
More than borderline, really. I mean,
it
depends on how things fell out.
I was surprised she threw that borderline on there. I mean, it's pretty clearly unethical.
Yeah. And the thing that's so tough is like, there's all sorts of circumstances that could have led to this the way it looks that aren't the way it looks. Like,
what do you mean?
For example, he's a marriage counselor. They break up. They have time apart. She doesn't even speak to the marriage counselor during that time. And then they match on Bumble and go out. And she's like, "Oh my God, this is really weird, but this is working. Am I wrong?" Like, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm simply saying that it's possible to connect with somebody outside of the way you originally met them. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I'm trying to imagine myself.
Sean's
actually
making some real faces, guys.
I'm trying to imagine myself in that position and still moving forward with like the relationship. I can't even put my brain in that. That's why I'm making all the weird faces. I can't even put my brain in that space.
Yeah. That's the part that you start to get into like the weird territory where, and this is always, there's like, this question comes up so often in so many different circumstances. I mean, it's also a thing when you're dealing with people who have like big age gaps and stuff. When should you, as the party with like arguably more power, be responsible for putting a stop to the thing and walking away? There are real, oh God, I want to say blurred lines, and that's that really problematic.
He ruined a perfectly good expression, didn't he?
He did. Gray areas, we'll say.
There you go. I like that better.
It's like somebody should have said, no, stop, we can't.
Mm-hmm.
And is it like gross that they didn't? Yeah. Is it wrong that they didn't? That's a different question. I could find it gross, but it not be technically wrong.
I'm going to just say it's wrong.
Like, and like I said, this is all predicated on my like fake assertion that they met accidentally outside of the thing, which I don't think is what happened. I am just saying it's possible that things aren't what they look like.
To be fair, we only have Ted's side of the story, right?
Yeah.
We've heard Ted talk a lot about how he always felt that his marriage counselor was not there for both of them. He tells us that he felt like, if I'm not mistaken, Dr. Jake, this is what makes it even grosser. Dr. Jacob was Michelle's therapist. First. And then
I remember this now.
She brought Ted in and he became their marriage counselor, but Ted always felt like it was a setup because they had this pre-existing relationship that he came into late. So he felt like, and so then to find out, oh, this guy is now fucking my wife after he, like, you know what I mean? Like,
that's a hell of a setup. That's a whole different type of setup than what I was originally thinking, but like, who knows?
So,
and yeah, I mean, I think I told you about how I did marriage counseling with Brendan, and he really felt like the counselor was on my side all the time and started to just be like, I don't want to see this guy anymore. I want to find somebody else.
Did you see the guy before, or you went in together as a couple?
We went in together as a couple, okay. But I'll be honest here. I really managed this therapist. I was also in the right on a lot of things, so that didn't hurt. I look back at that and I'm just like, yeah, my heart was just not fully in it. If you would ask me at the time, I would have said it was, and I believed I was, but I think I had signed out by then. I think I had pretty much like come to be like, this is just not going to work. And it was a very last ditch effort. Anybody out there who's like considering couples therapy, don't wait until shit's real bad, because patching up something broken to that degree is much more difficult, potentially impossible. The damage that you've done and the resentment that you create is impossible to undo, and some people can't get past it ever. If you are feeling like you need it, get it sooner, because better to cut things off at the root as they start to sprout than to let it become a fucking tree and then try to cut it down. Like, getting rid of that stump is a lot harder. So anyway, that's metaphors with Natasha for today. But yeah, this situation, when you put it about how like she was seeing this dude first, that really does change the whole dynamic. And the way the scene goes, like, I didn't know who he was, but as soon as I see Ted calling and I see that it's going to a landline and this guy is standing there, I'm like, okay, so he's going to answer the phone. I did not see that he was going to jump right into his Trump impression, which was god awful.
Listen, these people,
low-key triggering.
They're this, because of the reputation of the show, and this is my bias as well. Like, everybody thinks a property is speaking to their values.
Yep.
Until it's not.
Yep.
Right. And then when it's not, you feel betrayed by
Mm-hmm.
it. So, there were some people who came to the show and made a lot of assumptions about where it was landing,
Mm-hmm.
and then felt called out. Each season, I feel like the show has been very clear about where they stand based on lots of very overt things and some subtle
Mm-hmm.
things. But this season was a lot of, the show has gone woke. I'm out. You know, I used to like this show, but then it gave into the agendas, TM. You know what I mean? And there was a lot of like announcing their departures as if we were at an airport for this
My
season.
favorite that I saw in the wild was, "You're not a titty. Nobody cares if you bounce."
That's very nice. I hadn't seen that one yet.
So that's the one that I like
That's
to
much
keep in
better.
my pocket.
That's very, very good. But so, and then just how deeply uncomfortable both Jacob and Michelle are when they realize it's Ted,
Mhm.
because it's awkward and uncomfortable, and I would wager you know that you're doing something.
You
low
know
key
you
kinda shitty, don't
wrong.
you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know you
Yeah.
done wrong. This is like when I came in and Sam had ripped that pillow up and he was standing in the midst of all these feathers with this look on his face. He'd been having a grand old time, and as soon as I opened the door, he was like, "No, nothing. I wasn't. Mm-hmm. You knew better. First of all, the man should not be answering your phone. I don't care if you think it's a telemarketer. If you're in a situation that you're like low-key ashamed of, which is what I'm getting, don't do that. Secondly, the way that she just like takes the phone and immediately hands it to her son. Girl, I know that's who Ted technically called for, but come on now. And she does a whole like, can we talk when we both have more time?
Yeah. And Ted has to hear this guy talking to his son, who he misses desperately, talk about, come on, buddy. You know, I'm taking you to your game now. You ever seen a sunroof? Which I don't understand why you think a sunroof is really super exciting.
I also was kind of wondering about that.
I don't drive, so I don't know.
Yeah.
One last thing about this piece. I had mentioned to you via text about a run-in I had in the wild in a Ted Lasso conversation.
Yes.
And I had to not keep going because I forgot that you hadn't gotten to this episode yet.
Oh, okay.
Right? So there was like one or two people that like casually wondered who the guy was that was in Dr. Sharon's bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
A couple of people would mention it. But after this reveal about Jacob, the consensus was, this is terrible. This is a shitty thing to do. It's unethical. We all hate this guy because we love Ted and we hate Jacob, right?
Sure.
After that became a big push, people circled back to Sharon to be like, oh, I think there's something with her.
So they think the show's
her.
just going to go back to the same well and have her in a questionably, like, morally compromising, like, why would they just do that again?
I don't know. Because
like I said to you that I was wondering if it was a player because of his whole energy was somebody who seemed like he was on a a professional, you know.
Right. And to be clear, it wasn't the question. The questions aren't just was he a player, but specifically one of her patients,
right?
Not that she was just sleeping with a footballer, but also somebody that she was treating.
Right. I don't know why people would think they would just that this is evidence that she's doing a thing. Like that's not how storylines work unless you're a bad writer and you just feel like I need to lampshade that this is coming with doing it first with like why that's not how that goes. That's asinine. Whatever. So, I also sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Look, and in terms of, again, like the moral ambiguity of relationships, certain relationships, I would like to just point out I am married to a man that I left my husband for. So I am not exactly in the most strong position to be making judgments about ethics regarding who you decide you're going to hook up with and whatnot. I will admit to that and own that. That said,
I am in the position.
Rashawn is very much in a stronger position for that. But if I were his wife, Ted's ex-wife, what is her name?
Michelle.
Michelle, thank you. If I were Michelle and I started to like feel a thing for my therapist, which is not uncommon. Apparently this is like a big thing. Mm-hmm. You have somebody who listens to all your problems all the time and you just start to mistake that for like a real connection.
Yep.
If I start to feel that, especially as a grown-ass woman, I'm not even like a youngster feeling this and getting my wires crossed. I'm a grown woman and this dude seems to be reciprocating and also interested. I can't help but think that I would immediately be like, how many women has he done this with? I would be red flags all over. I would be investigating shit. I would be very paranoid. I would be wanting to know a lot about his dating history and how that went. And I don't like just the way I would see a man who was open to this in this way. I feel like it would undermine what made me interested to begin with. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's sort of like when a woman falls in love with a priest and the whole thing is like how devoted he is and how chaste and whatever. And then he starts to like not do that. And you're like, maybe I don't like this guy as much as I thought because he's actually not for real.
Right.
So
well, that's because those types of feelings are, like you said, they're based on a fantasy of what you think this person is.
Yep.
Right. Because they perform a very specific narrow function in your life. You know, your therapist, your priest, or whatever, they occupy a very specific lane.
Yeah.
And then you start to build all these feelings and emotions and fantasies around that very specific function. And then you meet them as the person that they are, where they're and then they kind of sort of drop off the pedestal a little bit. You know, well, all the things that were attractive to me, how chaste and devout, and pious and loyal and truthful, whatever. Oh, you're just another fucking dude, though.
Yeah.
And then all the shine is gone.
The only way that I could see that not quite happening is if you tell yourself it's never happened before. And the reason that it's happening is because our love is so pure and so compelling
special.
That it's a total exception, you know?
Once in a lifetime.
But I really feel like
putting us together.
If you're at Michelle's age, you should know it's never that special.
Right.
It's like,
and you know, like if you're if you think about Michelle, you're in this marriage, you love this man, you're unhappy, the marriage is not working anymore for whatever reasons, right? And now he's gone, and the person who helped shepherd you through what is the worst time in your life, the dissolution of your marriage, right? The person who held your hand through that is like, hey, I'm here now. Like the desire to be like, oh, I'll just fall into this thing.
Right.
He's been here for me through my darkest time. He was here for me. And I could see why, even though like at her big age, you think, you know, she would know better or whatever, but I can see it's very believable to me that she could fall into that. So for me,
sure.
I know that like they're both adults and they're both responsible for their choices, but I have to be very honest with you guys. I feel like the doctor, the professional in this situation, the onus is on them.
Agree.
You know?
They're the person with the power. They're the person sitting there with like someone who's going through some shit and very vulnerable. And that's predatory, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like you said earlier, like trying to like give a little grace, like maybe they really did have a real connection. Maybe this is like, it's just unfortunate. This is how they met. And it's been, Ted says like a year and a half. He estimates, you know, the time between they separated and when they got together.
Right.
but I just don't. It just doesn't sit in my spirit right. I read some.
I was giving grace
like
before you reminded me that he was her therapist first, and then I was like, oh, never mind.
A couple of reviews I read, people were saying like guidelines are like, you have to have not been treated them for at least 2 years. I think there's also not necessarily like legalities, but there are sort of like oaths of your profession and sort of like ethics you agree to adhere to. But overall, every person that is in this profession is like, that's an absolute no. Like, you just don't do this.
Yeah.
You just don't do it. Even if it's kismet. Sorry.
Especially if it's kismet.
Well then. So we also have Rebecca going to see Trish, her mom's psychic. And we talked a lot about this the last episode. I asked you, what were you hoping to get out of this visit?
This is really
What
something.
did you think? Tell me everything.
So, and it's kind of giving exactly what I was hoping for.
It was really
I just
close.
hit my mic. I'm sorry, everybody. But yeah, it's the, I am going to be very ambiguous about whether I'm for real or not. They're not going to believe it, but the audience is thinking maybe. And then things begin to happen. And she starts to get mad at herself because of how she's like, this woman has gotten into her head a little bit. She tries to ignore it and shit's popping up. And I am the thing that this woman ultimately says, because I didn't catch that it was a psychic I thought she was going to see a therapist. I completely forgot about the psychic thing. And then she sits down at a table and I was like, this is not therapy. What is this? And I started to be like, oh, right. Okay. But what this woman ultimately tells her is that she's going to have a family and be a mother.
That's the line that she crosses.
And Rebecca is like, yeah, you're dangerous and you're cruel. She gets really upset. And I am hoping that if she said this to Rebecca, that she means it in the most literal sense. Because if it's like, oh, your family is the football team and you're like the mother, I'm going to be like, burn it all down. I absolutely have no support for that. I don't want this to have been a metaphor. I need this to be exactly what it sounded like, or else get out of here. But yeah, she says something about how Rebecca's holding something that's precious to her, and it's a green matchbook, which later she's lighting a candle and starts to look for a green matchbook, can't find one, but in the end she gets given one.
She gets disgusted with herself too, that she's even looking for the matchbook in her drawer. And I love that moment. And it made me laugh when you were telling me what you were looking for, because I was like, oh my God, you're going to get almost everything that you're saying. So it's the green matchbook. There is a shite in knighting armor.
Right.
And thunder and lightning upside down, and you're all wet, but you're safe. And then the last one is, you're going to have a family. You're going to be a mother.
Yeah, that's weird. The shite in knighting armor just sounds like somebody joking around about saving her. And so I'm wondering if like you're wet but you're safe, is that, like I because when she says shite in knighting armor, Rebecca's response is, well, you're clearly more batshit than I even thought. And I was like, this is a very clear like misspeak, either accidentally or on purpose. Like, you're acting like she's just saying nonsense, and it's not really nonsense though. It's pretty easy to like put together what that was.
I love when Trisha's like, does that mean anything to you?
Which like it might, if there's all kinds of weirdo inside jokes, it could.
It's true.
It's
true.
Oh my God, that just reminds me of how when Zava sits at her desk and he says your desk is covered in biscuit crumbs.
Oh my God, that's so good. That's so good. I love that little detail too, because one, I don't think of Rebecca as like a person that would have crumbs in her desk. Mm-hmm. So I love that little detail.
Yes.
But then also just, we've watched her eat so often and never seen her clean her desk that I was just like, okay.
You know what? I'm going to try and do.
I have to take my keyboard at work every like a day or two and just like start banging it on the desk to get the crumbs out, because I snack so much.
is my silicone keyboard cover so that I can just
I don't
peel
have
that
one
bitch
for
right
work.
off.
I have one for home. Like I have mine, but like my one at my office, I don't have one.
You gotta
That
get.
shit be full of crumbs too.
Yeah,
I got
especially
keys
if
that
I
are
bet you
stuck.
have like those keys that are high up that have gaps that let
Yep.
stuff underneath. Those are the worst.
Yep.
Then you've got like
I have
weird
to pop 'em
crunchy sounds
out.
when you start to type, and there's
Yep.
no.
Yep, I have take paper clips and I pop the keys out so I can get the crumbs like out and then put the like key back in. It's so ghetto.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, Rebecca gets like she comes in doing this like appease my mother because she insisted that I do this, and like you said, by the time this is over, she is angry.
Yeah.
It's no longer just I'm doing this thing for my mom. This is how dare you fucking making money off of hurting people and playing with them. And she mentions something to Rebecca when she first sits down about the Japanese art of, I forget what the word is.
Oh, with the
Kinji or
repairing plates with gold. Yeah.
And I just thought that was really pretty. I didn't know that was a thing. I had never heard of it before.
Oh,
really
I'm really surprised because that's thrown around in a lot of like mental health discussions. The concept of like it's broken, but we repaired it to make it stronger and more beautiful than it was before by doing it in such a way. It's like a metaphor used very heavily, which actually kind of made me roll my eyes at this lady because I was like, "Oh, really? On, fucking everybody does this." Like, so
they probably knew that. That's really funny. I didn't know that, but that's probably like the joke of her, you know. But I fell for it. I was like, oh,
I don't think that they were trying to make it
meaningful.
I don't think that. I think I just had that reaction because of like where on the internet I occupy. But
okay,
you know what I mean? Like the sort of thing where it's just like somebody being like, "Well, you know what you want to do when you make chili? Add a little coffee." Wow, groundbreaking. My disdain regarding food is truly. That's the end of my
unparalleled.
But yeah, so later on, Rebecca is at Sam's restaurant. It's like a, I don't even want to call it a soft open because it's not really. It's just like a private party, I guess.
It's like, yeah.
Look, I know I talk a lot about how beautiful Rebecca is.
She really looks amazing in that dress, right?
Fucking scene.
She's got some nerve.
Could not stand it. Her skin is glimmering. She's definitely got some sort of like shimmer lotion on or something. She's looking just a little bit tan. Her hair is absolutely into flawless. That dress. The dress is cut straight across her tits, which is like such a look when you've got wide shoulders. I used to knock this look out of the park. And she even, at one point, she's holding a glass and she has this manicure and her long fingers with the glass. And I was like, her eye makeup.
Perfection.
You guys, I'm not kidding. I missed what was being said and had to rewind because I was staring at her and fucking missed dialogue. Like, it's wow.
It's sickening.
Sickening. Oh my God. Yeah. Sickening.
She's a fucking piece of ass.
Just like,
Shandy is like, how tall are you?
I really wanted her to answer that question. I'm sure that it's on the interweb somewhere, but I want to know. I'm going to put her at 5'11". No.
Yeah, because
she's taller than Ted.
But she's also always in those heels.
True. I might put her at 6'1". Because how tall is Jason Sudeikis, do you think? I put him at 5'11".
No.
And she's taller enough that I would say those heels wouldn't quite do the job.
Chris Goodnight, if you're in the chat, you could be Googling this stuff for us, you know.
I don't remember the actress's name, but I'm going to look up how tall is Jason Sudeikis.
It's Hannah Wadding.
He's 6'1". Okay, so you said Hannah what?
Is it Waddingham?
Yeah, here it is. Hannah Waddingham. What? Yeah, she is 5'11". I was right the first time.
No
I
shit.
put her
You
at
were
6'1",
right fucking dead on.
and then I switched them. But yeah, there's this thing here about how it says she struggled with her height before Ted Lasso, and how she appreciates that she got cast in this role despite being like taller than all of the dudes.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Because, that's the thing too, not to get a sidetrack, but think guys, listeners, how often do you see a woman on screen that's so much taller than her male co-star, her leading man? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of these leading men are out here being a whole 5'9". So all these actresses are like 5'5".
Yeah. It's wild when you find out how tiny some of these women are, because they have to be up against regular dudes. Because I picture all dudes being the height of like Thor. And what's he, 6'4"?
They are not.
Like, yeah, it's not. It's
They
not
are
the thing.
Most of them are like fucking Tom Cruise.
I also just like, I was looking at her and just, I had been noticing this the other day. I told you about how I'm in one of those True Blood shit posting groups. And a lot of times they'll share different like screen caps from scenes, or they'll share just like shoots that the actors did at one point or another. And I remember watching True Blood and thinking that Anna Paquin had the perfect figure, like perfect body. I was obsessed with the way she looked when I was younger.
She had nice tits. She had like a little tiny waist.
And I look at her
tiny
now and realize how incredibly thin she is. But at the time, that seemed totally normal and like completely achievable for me and desirable. And I think that a lot of us underestimate how much media affects the way that we see our bodies, because I recall how completely perfect she looked to me then. And a woman like Rebecca would have been seen as fat or played the role of somebody chubby, because she is rounder and rounder. She is fit as hell. She's taut as a bowstring. This woman is solid muscle, but it didn't matter back then. You just had to be very waif-like. And there was just like a woman who pops up in Love Actually that I remember at the time being like, oh, she looks more like me. That's nice. And then the joke of the movie is that she's the fat girl. And she was probably a size 6 instead of the size 2 that Anna Paquin is.
Christ.
So no shade to people who are a size 2 at all. I'm just saying, like, looking at Rebecca now and seeing her as just like, wow, that is goals. I absolutely would never have, but my thinking on this has shifted so dramatically as our standards for bodies have really changed, and our like showcasing different types of bodies has become more of a thing in advertising and in television and everything. We still have a fucking hell of a long way to go, and Rebecca is still basically unattainable. I'm not trying to pretend, but it was just really interesting to me to think about how differently I would have seen her a couple of decades ago. It would have been and I could imagine that was something that like got in the way for her. She's a big woman in terms of her shoulders as well. Like, it's not just her height. And yeah, there was a time where if you weren't a 2 or lower, they wouldn't put you on screen. That was it. That was the end of the story,
That was it. Yep.
Tell her she either has to gain 90 pounds or lose 100. Anything in between has no place on television.
Fucking Jack Donaghy.
Jack Donaghy. Anyway, okay, so back to our tales from the crypt.
So, well, you mentioned it with the green matchbook, so we can talk about the opening at Sam's restaurant. He invites the team. Everybody shows up. There's a lot of chatter about whether Zava is going to show or not. We have Shandy. Rebecca asks Keely how she's doing, and Keely says, "I love how not shy she is."
That is certainly correct.
So
she plops right down in front of Zava.
She really
and says,
does.
"Don't be a dick. Show a little love on social media." And he says, "I like your confident energy. It's very off-putting." If I have
When
never
they are
identified with a character more than Shandy at that moment, I swear to God.
When they're having the press talk with the players, and Keely is coaching them on like what they should say about their reaction to Zava joining the team, like keep it light, keep it positive. And Shandy is like, or go a different way. Just say the most bonkers thing you can think of so it'll go viral. Just like, I don't know, say you eat your own hair or something like that.
And then Roy comes in and she's like, "Why did you dump my friend?" It gets very aggro. I love this. And she's like, "She's definitely talked about me." And he's like, "Oh, right. Are you the one that used to eat your own hair?" "Yeah, I did. No shame. No waffling.
Not even a little bit. Nope.
I love her. I love her. Just like, for the record, everybody. I know, like, what I like about her, especially with Keely, is the foil. Because Keely doing, like, light, keep it positive, yes. But what she's suggesting about just saying something fucking bananas in order to go viral would also work. And is the dark side of managing PR and social media. Like, sometimes you want something that's a little bit, you know, I mean...
Exactly.
The whole thing lately is farming people yelling at you on social media. So you post some shit that's like actively wrong.
It really is.
Yeah.
And but it works. That
really
shit'll get
works.
30,000 fucking shares, and you'll get like a check from Facebook for X amount of dollars, even though I hear that they're not paying lately. I've been seeing a lot of creators complaining actually about how they monetize their account and they're not getting paid.
I never got to the point that I could get paid. They gave me the option to like opt in, but I had to reach a certain threshold and I never did. So, but it does not surprise me because that seemed like a real wacky thing to do in the first place. So
I saw, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I on a thread with people talking about this. I don't know if you know the page By the Way, like BI.
Yeah,
the way they pop up all the time. Somebody said that they owe that page $13,000 if they were paying what they said they were going to pay.
Life comes at you fast. Yeah. Facebook.
Yeah.
Making a lot of promises
but
over
again,
here.
I don't like, I can't don't know how true that is. I just saw it in a while, but I saw that figure and was like, holy fuck.
I was going to opt in because of the ease of it, if it just happened to work out. But Facebook has done so many shady things, acting like they're going to like support certain creators and stuff, and then wound up pulling the rug out from under them, that I would never put effort into that kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like that'd be,
I do 100%
whipped cream that maybe it'll show up eventually, but otherwise I'm just going to pretend that's not even an option.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, Shandy for president.
So at Sam's restaurant, I love Sassy coming specifically for Ted.
Right.
To get in.
Beauty and the Stink. That's a good line.
I love how happy Keely is to see Sassy. I love how much everybody loves Sassy in general. I'm always here for her. It was nice to see her again this season. There was a moment where Sam is dealing with his head chef and they're like having a little moment, and Rebecca is watching that moment longingly. And then Keely sees her watching, and then Roy is sitting over in the corner, and they both have sort of a toast of just kind of like, what's in the past is in the past, and we're going to have
better things ahead
things in our future. Yeah.
But I appreciate it giving Sam, like, he's chatting with this cook, and I don't know if she even is, I don't know if they're interested in each other. They're of an age, so it seems like, we're meant to think something, but like in terms of what interest they genuinely have, who knows? It could just be pure professional. She might be gay.
They're
like,
of an age.
Who knows?
They share a cultural background, but that's all we know about them at this point, right?
But yeah, the way that Rebecca's looking at him, I was like, girl, you better hope he doesn't just turn around and spot you, because that was that was like a flashing billboard of "I miss you."
Mhm.
The look she's
then
got
it's,
is the look that Pippin gives my cats. He wants so bad to be friends, and he just stares and puts his chin on my leg when Ripley's on my lap, and just stares at Ripley like, this could be us. We could be together. But she will
But
never
you
give him the
acting
time of day.
funny. There is, and I think the longing look from Rebecca is before the passing out of the matchbooks, because that's towards the end of the night.
I think so,
right?
yeah.
So she's looking at him like that, and then she gets the matchbook.
Mm-hmm.
Are you having any feelings? Do you think the show is trying to tell you something? Do you think it's nothing?
I feel like it's pointing to Sam being significant to her and getting back with him somehow. But it's again with like morally gray area relationships, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the two of them together a lot and was genuinely shocked at how hot Sam could be when he decided he was going to turn it on. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
But also, I do understand like the obstacles there, and I wasn't 100% in. I was in despite myself kind of thing, you know,
swept up in it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like the chemistry was like crazy in my opinion. Like they had really good chemistry on screen together. He really turned it on. She's already stunning. So them together, it was very easy to be like, oh yeah, I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you pull back, which is what she eventually did, and look at the whole thing, I kind of like I was heartbroken, but also like, maybe that's the right call.
Yeah, definitely.
For like where you each are, and like, yeah, like you're super hot together, but I don't know if this is right. You know what I mean? For both of us. All right. Fucking, we get a flash of Rupert being like disgusted during the montage of how well they're doing.
I really love how that's framed too, because he says like fuck, and he's in this gorgeous home in this idyllic looking situation with his beautiful young wife and their infant child playing on the ground, and everything is drenched in sunshine and looks like expensive and soft and cozy, and he can't enjoy himself. He's got everything and he doesn't have, and it's still
not enough. Because he didn't get the one thing he wanted.
Yep.
You know, because he's the kind of guy that always gets what he wants. And this time he didn't. And it is unbearable to him.
And Nate also is out here looking at the numbers and everything and just clearly like feeling away. And he gets credit in that thing about that Talking Heads pundits thing about like being a tactician. But I haven't seen that. I believe that they know what they're talking about, but because we have not had a lot with him yet, I don't know really what they're referencing exactly. But it's the kind of thing that I would be interested to see what kind of comments he is going to make, because he's in that place now where Ted did the self-own. So what can he say that's not going to come across even more petulant and shitty? And yet, it's a real easy thing to point out that this is one player carrying the entire team. And I don't even know that I think that's exactly true, but you could say it, and very few people would argue the point, because that seems on the surface to be what's going on here.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, like I like that point. Like Nate, say he were to speak about the success they're having, he could take a couple of shots at Ted. You know, it's easy to win 10 games when you have the best player in the world on your team.
Right.
But you also have to admit, when you say that, even though it's a dig, it's still credit to Richmond for getting the best player in the world, because y'all tried to get it and you didn't.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like a really fine line you'd have to walk. So, but yeah, I like that we just get to see both Rupert and Nate being salty as fuck about the success that Richmond is having.
Yeah, I've been trying to decide whether I think Rupert would sabotage this somehow, because I don't know how low he's willing to go. He feels like the kind of person that would do literally anything he could get away with. You
Absolutely.
So I think
Absolutely.
sabotaging is not out of the question, but how to pull that off, that's the thing. And I don't even know,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that it's spinning through his mind. What are his options? And if
Mm-hmm.
he had any options, or if he can figure out the options, he would absolutely take advantage of them.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of figuring out, like, what can I do? Is there anything I can do? We also get Jane shows up at Sam's restaurant, and I have really grown to like. I don't know if "like her" is the right expression, but something about them together speaks to me, and maybe my just deep-seated dysfunction. But, but when Ted says, "Wow, your baggage really does just go well together," I was like, "Sometimes, y'all, that's just how it be.
Yeah.
It be like that somehow. Sometimes
I wouldn't even say sometimes. I would say that's the point. Is you
If you're
find a
lucky.
person whose baggage lines up. That's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And what that means, that's a whole other question. Lines up. You could be like, oh yeah, it lines up because I'm getting into an abusive relationship just like my father used to beat me. And that's not what we're looking for when we say lines up, kids.
No.
It's not repeating the
it's
painful past.
No.
Just, you know, you both need help in the certain area that the other person can provide it in that exact way.
She like springs out of nowhere and yells Weinstein's cock in his face and it says, "You're cheating on me." And he says, "Yes, with you." And then they just start making out.
She
And
literally
then after a
climbs
few minutes of
onto
making-
his lap.
And then she breaks the kiss off and says, "You're being really clingy, right?"
Shoves him. Shoves him off her. Like
And he
he's a
says, "I'm so
stranger on the
sorry."
street. Like, girl, you were in his lap, ma'am. You were straddling this man in this restaurant. Oh my God.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm here for it. I know that
It's fun
I
to
was
watch
really,
from the
like,
sidelines.
iffy from the sidelines. I was like, went back and forth about Jane a lot when we first met her. Really liked it. It's like, oh, I don't think I like her.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. The more we learn about Beard, the more she makes sense.
Yeah, it's like Beard. It's if she were, it felt like being somehow abusive to him, and he were trying to get out of this, but couldn't because she was managing to manipulate him. But that's not it. He's like fully aware of the fucked upness of this relationship and is opting in every time and playing into it. Like, yeah, the toxic is what he likes. Yeah. So, you know, and they fucking Godspeed, I guess.
Yeah, and they seem to have, this is going to sound weird because the show hasn't given us explicit examples of it, but I feel like the show's inferred it. They seem to have boundaries between the two of them that make sense to them in the relationship that don't make sense to people on the outside, right?
Yeah.
So like they are, it looks like they are harming each other sometimes with their behavior, but their behavior is within the constraints of what they have established their relationship is, right?
Yeah.
So they each know like just how far to push each other, which can be uncomfortable to watch, you know, from the outside. But they both seem satisfied and comfortable with it. And don't seem to be doing the kind of harm that would be concerning.
Agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then this is when we also have at the restaurant Roy and Jamie, the prima donna scene that we talked about earlier. But really, Jamie just admitting that he wants to be better. He wants to be, and he says better than Zava, but I really think also it's as best as he can be. He knows he's not the best that he can be. And Roy offers to train him, which is really coming full circle because last season when Roy became coach, you remember he wouldn't even, like, Jamie was begging to be trained and Roy wouldn't even acknowledge his existence.
Yeah.
So this is a fun little
I'm really
turnaround
looking
as
forward
well.
to
And
seeing Roy yell whistle a couple more times.
he just smacks that whatever that was on his fork off his, like just smacks it.
I
James
love the
about to
chef
eat a
walking
piece of.
by and stops. Come on,
Oh my
man.
God, I love that so much. I think it's like one of the wait staff. It's not the woman that we see Sam with. It's
Oh,
somebody
okay.
else. But yeah, I love that moment of just checking them. Like, really?
We're not
And
even open yet, and you're all staining
right?
our white walls.
Come on. And then we'll take care of it. And then Roy telling Jamie, clean that up. But Jamie, but the last thing we see is Shandy also makes her way over to Jamie and is like whispering a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after she's done talking to Zava. Thoughts?
I mean,
Predictions? Curiosities?
I like where to start. Do you mean about like the talking to Zaba specifically?
Well, the fact that when Rebecca and Keely are both looking at like people that they aren't with anymore, right? And they say to the whole like, you know, future and say goodbye to the past, whatever. The last thing we see, Shandy gets up from talking to Zava and kind of sidles over to Jamie. Roy has already walked away, and we just see her kind of like leaning over, like, you know, chatting him up a little bit, and it's just framed. And we see Rebecca and Keely both seeing her like talking to Jamie. Do you think she's like making a move? Do you think she's
That's so weird because like I don't remember this, and I watched the episode with my full attention, and I didn't notice this at all. So
okay,
I will say that
that's
my
fair.
prediction is that it must be meaningful, or it wouldn't you wouldn't have brought it up. But it did not register for me. I'm really hopeful that she's not trying to hook up with Jamie, because we don't need that. But she seems so loyal to oh my God,
Keely.
Thank you. I wanted to call her Shandy. That I don't think that she would, you know, double dip from exes. Like, I think that would be sort of out of bounds, and she would know that. I don't know though. Shandy's kind of shameless in a specific way. I don't feel like that would be part of her shamelessness though. I just don't see it. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, yeah, I don't know. She's just so mad at Roy that part of me is like, is she trying to set something up to like for Keely's benefit, you know? Because she's the way that she put Roy on the spot. It was really good, you guys. I really enjoyed all of the players going, oh, when she just straight up asks. That was a good moment.
There's a lovely moment where Shandy and Keely are engaged in conversation, walking through the hall on the way to the presser thing, and Roy walks by, and they don't even look up, and she doesn't even look up at him.
Yep.
And it's like nothing happens, but everything happens. It's such a, you know,
it's not like she sees him and purposely ignores him. There's no sense of this being a slight. She isn't the type to do that. She just genuinely doesn't notice him. She's
just fully engrossed in what she's doing, what's going on with her life and her day.
Yep.
She doesn't even notice him. And I like this thing they're doing. First of all, it's really funny. The way everyone reacted to them breaking up was hysterical. And also everybody, just the resounding, dude, what the fuck? What are you doing? Like, that energy is still continuing to carry over. Like, every person is like, Roy, what the fuck? What are you doing?
And it's a real, like, what I keep kind of wondering, because if this were a different show, I would be like, this is all leading to them getting back together. I don't know if that's true of this show. Like, the thing is, if they're getting back together, it has to be because Roy understands why he pushed her away and really like deals with that. And I can't.
What does that look like?
I can't tell if he's like interested in doing that kind of work. You know, it felt like when he had that conversation with Ted about like some people would rather quit than be fired. That was
Mhm.
not that was barely subtext. That was text.
Barely.
And I think he knew exactly what Ted was saying. I think he was aware what suggestion Ted was making. So it's not like he isn't aware of his own mindset at play here at all. He's not
Right.
completely unconscious. But if he is aware and he's going through with dumping her anyway, then he's just decided to stay in that headspace.
Yep.
And maybe, like, that's how some people live their lives. They see that they
not
have
everybody
this
gets out of
particular
that.
spot and they're just sort of like, that's just who I am. And they don't
Yep.
make any effort to change it because they just either don't think they can, or they don't see that it's worth it, or they're so afraid of failing that they're like, I'm not going to
Yep.
make myself vulnerable like that, you know?
It takes incredible courage to try to figure your shit out and make it, I don't know, better. I don't want to say better, but like just try to figure your shit out,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And not everybody is able to do that, capable of doing that, willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right now, you're not sure if Roy is in a place to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Whether he's just not willing or able. I have a little gnat in here. We've seen some growth. We've seen a lot of growth from Roy from when we first met him.
Mm-hmm.
What is that moment when he's talking, when Roy goes and sits down and joins Jamie at the table at Sam's restaurant? The first thing he says to him is, frowning in the middle of a winning streak is not a good look.
Yeah.
Like, you're over here sulking when you should be celebrating with the rest of the team. This doesn't look good. But Jamie says, you spent your whole career frowning. And Roy says, I never smiled. There's a difference.
I appreciated that because there is a difference.
But we have seen, like, the Roy Kent that we first met in season 1 is not the same person that we see now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he's demonstrated that he has the potential for growth. But to do the kind of work to be in a relationship with someone like Akili
Mm-hmm.
Requires more continued work.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's possible that he's reached what he can do. You know?
Yep. And like, I really liked the two of them together, and I liked the fact that at the last season, at the end, he was like, it would have been weird if I was in those pictures with her. Like, he recognizes that she doesn't need him, and I felt like that was really important because a lot of dudes wouldn't have that kind of grasp, you know? Mm-hmm. So that felt like so significant. But then for it to turn a corner and him to be bummed by that and like pull back, it's really disappointing. But you know, so I was like rooting for them, and I am not against them somehow working things out and getting back together. But at the point he's in now, he's just going to drag her down. He's going to make her so like constantly self-conscious, I feel like, about what she's doing, and like worry about his feelings. And I don't think she would do that to the detriment of her own job, because she knows how to put her priorities first. That's why they're here, is because she was not willing to just like coddle Roy. She was putting her shit first. But I don't like it even being something that she has to be concerned about at all. So I'm not really rooting for them to get back together just in general. I am rooting for him to like grow the fuck up and like get a group of friends that are more than relying entirely emotionally on your girlfriend for all of your social interactions and whatnot, you know.
That's the dream.
Mm-hmm.
That's the dream. What was the other couple of things I wanted to just make sure I went to the next episode, so I got to be real careful. Autoplay. So let's see. Is there anything that we didn't talk about? I think we actually covered most everything.
I just the moment where Michelle's boyfriend picks up the phone and the fucking imitation that he does. Oh, guys, because this is not going to go well. I thought it was going to be simply, oh, the new boyfriend picked up. He's a part of her life in the way that he is out here answering the phone, and that's a big deal. I didn't see it coming that he was going to be their therapist. Like, that was just a whole different level of upsettedness.
I'm glad you brought Dr. Jacob up because I wanted to talk about Ted.
Okay.
We see Ted, two things. He has an appointment with Dr. Sharon.
Mm-hmm. And he talks forever, and she just hangs up on him.
I love that. And he's like, gotta respect that. She's like, our time is up. And he keeps talking.
Very abrupt.
But we also see him like drinking in his apartment alone, scrolling Dr. Jacob's Facebook.
Yeah.
Like just checking in, looking at everything.
Which you would do. I mean, I definitely did it. When Brendan got engaged,
Yeah.
I was just like, who? What? And I just went and like found out everything I could about her.
So we see Dr. Jacob. I think he's
dressed like a banana
or something.
Yeah.
Dressed like a banana. And then we have like the way he answers the phone. So he seems like a very personable, like funny, wacky guy, And we know that we don't know a lot about Dr. Jacob, but we remember one of the problems that Michelle said their marriage suffered from was Ted's sort of like relentless optimism and like not ever being serious, and
yeah.
And we've only had a few glimpses of Dr. Jacob, so it's not enough to base like his whole personality. But we see in these moments him also being like a wacky guy. I'm wearing a banana suit, and I do funny voices, Gotta kind of sting if you're a Ted.
This is the thing, especially like, I mean, some of the parallels between Owen and Brendan, spooky kiddos. When I started dating
the new wife
Brendan,
and you,
yeah, that also. And when I started dating Brendan, he was just getting out of a relationship with a woman named Natasha, by the way, who had been his ex. So we all have our things that we just tend to gravitate toward.
It's true.
But yeah,
it's very true.
It's like there's a part of you that's resentful and a part of you that's like, well, I guess that's the type. All right, I can understand that.
Yeah,
I went for another nerdy, funny white guy with ADHD.
Yeah, I mean, we all have a type, and trying to imagine Ted seeing this new guy, and with his old wife and his son in his house answering his phone.
Oh, you know what we didn't mention?
Right.
The start of that panic attack.
Oh, right. The first game, right?
Yeah.
He just gets off the phone because they're like on the way to the field and he needs to call home. Doesn't have his cell phone, calls the house phone, comes out. We hear the ringing, the hands start, clenching and tensing up. And he doesn't have it though.
No, it's interrupted by the first goal being won.
So, all right, that's interesting. So interrupted. All right, that's so funny. I interpreted that very differently, but I don't think that either of us is like right or wrong. I think you might be more right than I was. I thought it was more like I know how to deal with these a little bit better.
Ooh, I wasn't picking that up at all.
But the timing of it, I think you might be right. I think maybe it really was just interrupted.
Yeah, he's zero, like doing that like middle distance stare. What do they call that? The 300-mile stare or whatever.
1,000-yard stare.
That's the one. Wow, 300-mile stare. 1,000 yards, Tosh. 300 miles. What? Anyway. But yeah, he's like clenching his hands and staring, and the sound is very like muted, and then the goal gets scored. Is that the way you want to say this? And
I mean, we'll
everybody
just go with that.
jumps on him, and then the sound comes back to the scene, and he kind of looks up startled. So it really seemed to me like he just needed something to like shake him out of this headspace that he was going into, which doesn't always work, but it is a sort of one of the things that they say to help get you out of a panic attack is to get you out of your head by like observing things around you and kind of being in the present moment. And a huge thing happening like that goal so immediately and the whole stadium losing their minds, that'll get you back in the present moment pretty fucking quick. So I agree with that, Reed. I do. I agree with that. I don't know why I didn't think of it that way. But because you wanted him to have his shit under control.
I think that's what it was. I wanted to think like, oh, eventually you can get yourself through those moments and bring yourself back. But no, I think you're right.
Like you can, but I just don't think that's necessarily what was going on there.
Yeah.
I was glad though, because I was worried he was going to freak out and they would film it and it was going to be a whole thing.
Have the whole thing again. Yeah. I think maybe it's because I have never actually been roused out of a panic attack in that fashion. Mm-hmm. It's never really worked for me. So I just feel like it's not possible, but clearly, of course it is. I just have never experienced it.
I don't think I have either.
I've never had anything like so external be so overwhelming that it can snap me out of it.
Yeah.
Like that's just not been my experience. But also I've not coached a Premier League football team. So whose fault is that?
You've never coached a Premier League football team? Right. Wow, that is so sad.
How can I be out here expecting my panic attacks to be interrupted when I'm not fucking coaching professional sports? I have to just suffer through those bitches. But
anyway, I do like there's a mention too of him playing Tetris on the toilet, and Tetris has been a thing that's been circulating as like playing that after having a traumatic event can help you not have PTSD because of like the color match. You know that like color therapy and the light therapy that they use to treat PTSD, it like has a similar effect on your brain if you play it within an hour of the event, I think. Or
no, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it was a really like I've seen this a few different places, the studies that they have done about it, but apparently, after a traumatic event, play Tetris.
The rapid eye movement?
I do not remember, I'll be honest. But
I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, definitely look into it. And everybody have Tetris on your phone ready to go because you may not need it. Somebody near you may need it though. So,
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think we covered most everything. We didn't go beat by beat, but there was a lot to talk about. And I knew if we tried to catch like every line, we wouldn't have enough time.
I think saying talk into is better. I like that. There's a lot to talk into. I like it. Now.
No, nobody likes it.
New patrons. This week we have got Danielle, Galen Mall, Michael Eskbacher, and Tori Franklin.
Welcome.
I am doing that on the opposite side. Oh, but Sam is still here. Do you see him? Can you see him?
I can't see him.
He stood up and came over to me like, yes, what? Sam doesn't really like the air horn kiddos. Oh, he's such a good boy. Whoever is out there who has been like, I could really use a companion, may I recommend the sweetest boy? His name is Samwise, and he is adorable and good, and I love him, and I will be so heartbroken to give him up, but he needs a home. I've almost said a couple times that I like him better than Pippin, which I don't want to say in front of Pippin, but like I kind of do because he is just such a sweet boy. But yes, if you are like anywhere within 12 hours drive, I will bring him to you because he needs somebody to love him and give him all of the attention. And I give him a lot. Don't get me wrong. I give him a lot of attention. But we have to keep them separated now because they fight each other constantly, and it's tragic. So anyone out there who wants a dog that is like extremely cuddly and affectionate, but also does get into some shit. He's a little bit of a troublemaker, so you gotta be ready for that. And especially if you've got other dogs, he loves other dogs. Definitely let me know, because he deserves all of the best things.
Aww.
He's so good. Ugh, you guys. I wish there was a way to like give everybody a 5-minute sample of what it's like to just be around Sam so that they can understand how much better he will make their lives, because he just will. He's just good. Like, he's destroyed so much of my stuff and I don't even care. I'm not even like, I don't even care. It's just,
that's really the testament right there. That's the testimony.
Yeah.
He just wrecked my shit and I don't even care. I still love him so much.
Yep. And I am somebody who cares about my stuff. You know, when you don't have a lot of money to replace things, you can get a little testy. And even then, I'm just like, the good outweighs what's been destroyed so heavily that it's like barely there. Doesn't factor.
Yeah.
Anyway. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this one up?
No, ma'am. We're just coming in under the wire.
Yeah, we are. Good for us.
Very proud of us.
Yay!
Right?
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening, and thank you to Chris for coming to the live. Appreciate you a lot. And until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
No, my hands won't be tied down, and I will not lay them down, 'cause I can finally see the truth. So simple but so clear, accepting an ocean's depths were out of reach for me and you. If you're coming up for air, breathing in, you know I'll be there when you first begin. And when everybody's telling us we have no time, we'll prove them wrong.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.